Well guys, we finally made it. I reviewed the two Punisher seasons. I reviewed all three seasons of the original Daredevil on Netflix, The Defenders, all leading up to this one review of Daredevil Born Again. This is a show that I have been very much looking forward to ever since it was announced. Matt Murdock gives up the Daredevil persona as he lives on a new life after the death of a loved one. All the while, Wilson Fisk is running for mayor and is about to run the city into the ground, and so Daredevil must come back into action and be who he is always meant to be. So for a bit of history behind the scenes of this show, when it was first announced, there was hype around the entire thing. The original series was one of the best shows on Netflix and is considered the best of the Marvel Netflix shows at the time, and it was absolutely beloved, especially by me. I glazed the ever-loving shit out of this show. And when I heard that it was canceled because of rights issues between Netflix and Marvel, I was really bummed out. But then they brought back the original actors with a few shows like Hawkeye and Echo, like Kingpin appeared in these, and Charlie Cox made an appearance in Echo in No Way Home, and it looks like we are going to get the Daredevil show, and we're slowly easing our ways towards that. But then we heard that the original creatives of this show wanted to distance themselves from the original Netflix show and had this be a soft reboot of sorts, and this got everyone concerned. Foggy and Karen were not going to make an appearance. There's going to be barely any mention of the original show apart from a few hints of season 1, and none of the cast, at least the original cast, was liking the direction. Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio were making like pushbacks against this version of the script and saying that this is not how these characters should be acting or should be treated. And John Bernthal even threatened to quit the project at one point because he felt like his portrayal of the Punisher in the original version that they were writing for was not true to the character. And it was all over the place, and they were filming the show for a bit, but once the actor strike happened, everything just went to hell, and Marvel realized that the episodes that they had shot were not good. And so they did something that I haven't seen Marvel done in a while, or at least ever. They did a complete creative overhaul of the show and brought in the creator for the original Punisher Netflix show and the directors for the Loki series to come in and write a few new episodes and do a bunch of reshoots in between the old stuff to try and salvage what they can. And so this is starting to sound like this is going to be a Frankenstein monster of a show, and it had the potential to be that. But I actually think that the creative overhaul and absurd amounts of reshoots that the show received actually saved it. What? I am so used to comic book movies and shows that have to be reshot to hell and back, getting like Frankenstein to oblivion, and that there's no passion put on screen. The old stuff, you could tell, is the old stuff. And you can tell by the way it's shot, by the way it's acted, with the way the characters are written, it's like the old stuff. And the new stuff is beautifully shot. The acting is even better. Not that the acting was bad before, but the acting is even better in the new episodes. The writing is a lot more concise. The action is a lot more visceral. The tension is much more suspenseful. It's like the Loki directors actually salvaged this show and actually saved it. And I actually left this show very much enjoying it. Now, I do have a few problems with Daredevil Born Again, and I wanted to get into those first. For one, the episodes that had the original team. They were not as good as the new director's episodes, you know? And while there are a few episodes from that old team that I do enjoy a lot, like on par with some of the newer episodes with the creative overhaul, there's a lot more that's like just fine, you know? Like the rest of the other episodes were okay, they were serviceable. The acting is good. I mean, for the most part, it's competently shot, I guess, but you could tell that those episodes had a bit of an identity crisis, because you could tell that certain scenes within those episodes were just done by the new creative team, and whenever it cuts back to another scene that's from the old team, it just feels a bit jarring. I mean, the only episode from the old team that, for the most part, feels pretty much in line with the original vision is the bank robbery episode, because that just felt like an entire episode that's self-contained, told its own story from beginning to end. And the only scene that I could think of that could have been done by the new creative team was the final bad guy getting his comeuppance by Daredevil, getting his leg broken and everything. That was really brutal and violent, and that was the only part that I think the new creative team had any input on. Everything else just felt like the old creative team, and it was good. It was a fun episode, but it just felt stale in comparison to everything else. You know, it just felt like filler one. But it was honestly pretty fun to see Daredevil slowly go back into action, and Charlie Cox is just letting that part of himself now come out a bit more, and it's easing us into Matt Murdock slowly becoming Daredevil once again. It's that little tease, and I love how he interacts with Kamala Khan's dad there. It's fun. But my favorite episodes from the old creative team were honestly the two episodes that involved White Tiger and his trial. They were really engaging to watch, and seeing Matt Murdock trying to figure out how to be able to win this case legally, and trying to hold back his Daredevil persona while Kingpin is running for mayor and trying to get rid of all vigilantes in New York. I thought it was all enthralling, especially the performance of the actor who played White Tiger, who tragically passed away before the airing of this show. Rest in peace to him. He was absolutely fantastic and was the heart and soul of these episodes. You feel for his character. You feel for what he is saying and why he believes what he's doing is right, and you want him to be proven innocent, because he was just a person trying to do the right thing, but unfortunately the system is just not letting that happen, even in a legal way. And when the tragedy with him eventually happens, you feel for Matt and how he's slowly starting to lose his faith in the system. But I honestly think it's that kind of darkness that what made this show really engaging, because without that kind of darkness mixing with a bit of light, a bit of hope that Matt is trying to keep, it wouldn't make this trial feel engaging. And Matt is always like bombarded with problems throughout this trial, and so seeing him trying to navigate his way through this legally as Matt Murdock, the lawyer, is actually really engaging to watch. However, when we get to the Muse subplot, that's when the episodes start to get a bit worn out. Like, when it comes to Muse as a character, I felt like he had the potential to be one of the creepiest villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but his character is very underutilized, and I liked his action sequences with Daredevil and how violent they could get, but I don't think Muse as a character was all that well developed, even when his identity is eventually revealed and we see his relationship with Heather, who is in the show Matt's forgettable girlfriend. Honestly, it doesn't resonate that well because they barely had much screen time together. If they had an episode more with Muse with Heather, developing their relationship a bit more and Muse's backstory, this could have been a lot more engaging to watch. But As so, it felt like there were a bunch of pieces missing, and it was rushing through Muse's backstory just to get to the Daredevil parts. And speaking of which, I love how this show, especially in these middle few episodes, constantly go back and forth with Kingpin and Daredevil, trying to suppress their true selves as the Kingpin and Daredevil, and it all culminates in the 6th episode with these two characters letting loose with their personas as they are going full on out on their opponents, trying to attack them. And it is very cathartic, and I love the editing choice of mixing these two fight sequences between Kingpin and Adam and Muse and Daredevil with each other, showing that this is who they really are at the same time. I really like that choice of editing there. But all in all, the Muse subplot is a bit stale and lacked a lot of development and story potential. But once we get to Bullseye once again, and the last few episodes with Punisher and everything comes to a head, it is all so much better. I'm telling you, the cinematography is so much better. The action is a lot more visceral. The tension is building a lot more. And how Daredevil is starting to learn the truth about what's really happening with Kingpin and what his plan is. I was engaged all the way through. From the very first shot of episode 8, I could tell that from then on, these next 2 episodes with the Loki directors are going to be peak. And they most definitely are. Like, I don't want to spoil anything in case you guys have not seen Daredevil Born Again yet. But trust me, how it ties back to the original series as well, in terms of bringing in a lot of stuff from that original show back into these next few episodes, the last few episodes, is brilliant. The practical effects used for some of the violence as well is really good, though some of the CGI effects here, especially in the first episode, were a bit janky, honestly, and it could have been improved a little bit. But it's honestly not that big of a problem because the show does have a good amount of practical effects being used, and for the most part, I think the way they're utilized in this show help make the action and violence feel a lot more visceral than it would have been. And there's this one kill sequence in episode 9 that really surprised me as to how Disney approved of this. It really was a joy to watch. I feel like I'm not looking at the camera anymore this entire time. So all in all, I really enjoyed Daredevil Born Again. Is it as good as the original Netflix show? No. The middle few episodes with the old creative team were really all over the place, and they did not really have that sense of urgency that you want, and they just were not as written as well or were as compelling. But they were not bad. They were still enjoyable, and I really loved the Hector Ayala character, White Tiger, in those episodes. Like, episodes 1 to 3, I really enjoyed. Episodes 4 through 6, or no, 4 through 7 were okay, but they were not as good as the first 3 episodes. I found them to have great moments. Like, I love the first scene with Frank Castle and Matt Murdock meeting again. Like, that scene legitimately teared me up with their conversation, and it's honestly one of my favorite scenes out of anything Daredevil related in the MCU, like Netflix or pure MCU otherwise. But the last 2 episodes were honestly my favorite and were what saved the entire show for me for being just fine. I thought this show was really good. I just don't think it's great. I think it has a lot of missed potential. A lot of the side characters were honestly really forgettable and don't contribute much to the overall plot. I thought that they would in the first 3 episodes, but after that, they become useless. Heather as a love interest was honestly so forgettable, and I really did not like her character as the show written her on forward. But I think that was done purposefully to maybe make her a villain in the next season. It just felt like the show was just setting up a bunch of stuff for the next season to really pay off this stuff. And if I do have to have a problem with those final 2 episodes, is that it did feel like set up for the next season. It did not feel like an overall seasonal conclusion here. but they were still really entertaining, and they still were really compelling stories, and got me really excited for the future of Daredevil in the MCU, especially knowing that the new creative team that saved this show is going to have full creative control in the next season. So with that in mind, I'm hyped for season 2, and I'm really excited to see what this new creative team can do with a completely clean slate and with an uncompromised vision that respects what came before. I'm going to give Daredevil Born Again a B+. I don't think it is the best Disney Plus show ever, honestly. I have to be real. I still think that crown still goes to Loki, but it is definitely one of the better ones. And if season 2 is as good as I hope it will be, I'm willing to say that this show is even better now than when I first watched it. So, hoping that season 2 is a banger. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.